My question is to Dr. Subramaniam Swamy. Sir, don't you think that it is the easy escapism which you are talking about? While referring Kashmir as the cleansing, I strongly object to it, but don't you think that you are simply trying to make it an emotional religious issue rather than a political issue? And my next question is,
one question.
Okay, this is a continuation of this. This is the continuation of this. How would you term cleansing of the Buddhism by the Brahmin? Was it a religious or was it a political? Thank you.
Well, first of all religion is emotional anyway. And therefore to say I'm appealing to emotions is a tautology. The fact of the matter is that 500,000 Kashmiri Pandits are living in refugee camps only because they were Hindus. And the destruction of temples that is taking place there in Kashmir is only because it's a Hindu temple. These are Hindu temples. Of course, it doesn't mean that all the Muslims are that way. I would say that the Abdullahs are examples of people who are truly Hindustani in outlook. And therefore, I am not painting everybody with the same brush. But there are some fundamental facts that Muslim intellectuals must come face to face with. In the land of Saudi Arabia, which is the ultimate purity in at least Wahhabi Islam, the Indian community cannot build a temple there. They cannot celebrate Diwali there. They can't even carry a picture of Ramchandraji in their pocket when they go to work. Now, is there anyone is the Muslim community willing to condemn that? Are they willing to say that all religions lead to God? And therefore, we are not making any value judgment which religion is better or not. But this is our way of looking at it, which is the Hindu way, of course, but it's not the Christian way, it's not the Islamic way. And that's where the fundamental conflict arises. And that conflict will remain unless this matter is centrally dealt with, that all intellectuals of all communities lead their people to say that we in India regard all religions as leading to God, and we make no distinction on that score. If this one thing, plus of course what Maulana Sahib has already said, all Muslims here should recognize that after all they are from this country, they have as much right to this country as anybody else because their ancestors were from this country. And that is what needs to be emphasized. Both these would create a great deal of brotherhood, and the destabilization factor would go away from what is called India today.
Well, to Subramaniam Swamy, your daughter is married to a Muslim.
Yes.
My daughter is married to a Hindu. And Iqbal says, मजहब नहीं सिखाता आपस में बैर रखना, हिंदी है हम वतन है हिंदुस्तान हमारा. And my question to you is, why do you brush us all, Muslims, by the same brush by saying that we must learn that we're basically all Hindus and therefore you respect us? We respect each other's religion anyway. And if it's just one country, Saudi Arabia, which behaves like that, look at the other Islamic country, Dubai, where I am going to inaugurate a Gurdwara. Can you imagine? That shows that Islam has that way of accommodation. So Islam is not bad. No religion is bad. So Swami, my question is it not true that we politicians and the religious leaders, whether here or in Pakistan, are the ones who are root cause of the tragedies that we are facing in our both nations?
Well, your question calls for a long answer, but I'll give a short answer. Politicians cannot create anything. Unless the ground reality is there, politicians cannot do anything. So, you may say what you like, this is my view. I would say this, that it's very easy to speak goody-goody things about Hindus and Muslims. I have nothing against them. After all, as I say, they are part of my family, so there's no question. But I do see that 500,000 Hindus have been driven out of Kashmir. I do see that a professor in Kerala had his hands chopped off because he had asked in an exam question something which the clerics didn't like. Well,
Sir, please keep
certainly.
quiet. Please keep quiet, sir.
Certainly. I am not going to defend any action which is taking place, where the Muslims, Hindus have engaged in any violent activity. But theologically, Hinduism doesn't preach these things. Islam, I'm only saying to the Muslim intellectuals, please declare that all religions are equal. Or all religions lead to God, if you don't want to say it equal. But ours leads faster, you can say that. So it's happening everywhere. The problem arises because there is this concept of Darul Islam, Darul Harab, and Al-Taqiyya. And that psychology permeates wherever Muslims in India, in any pocket, are in majority. I have found from my personal experience that the Hindu community lives in fear there. Whether it's in Kashmir, whether it's in Meerut, whether it's in Mau, whether it's in a town panchayat near Vellore, or whether it's in Kerala. In Malappuram, for example. That is because there is a different view as to what should be the shape of society where Muslims are in majority. That is what is called as Darul Islam, and that is what Saudi Arabia is. And that's what happened in Bangladesh, where there were 32% Hindus. Today it's down to 7%. It's one of the largest religious cleansing that has taken place anywhere in the world.
I think Maulana Madni wants to
मैं सिर्फ एक
interject.
बात कहना चाहता हूँ, डॉक्टर सुब्रमण्यम स्वामी साहब डिक्लेरेशन चाहते हैं, तो मुसलमानों के लिए सबसे बड़ी चीज़, सबसे बड़ी किताब, सबसे बड़ी हिदायत की चीज़ कुरान है। और कुरान ने बिल्कुल साफ हुक्म दे दिया, लकुम दीनुकुम वलिय दीन, तुम्हारे लिए तुम्हारा दीन मुबारक और हमारे लिए हमारा दीन मुबारक। तो अलग से किसी डिक्लेरेशन की मैं तो समझता हूँ कोई जरूरत नहीं
सिरा और हदीत में तो नहीं है, ये सिरा और हदीत में नहीं है।
बिल्कुल है, सब जब कुरान में है तो फिर हदीस में तो जरूरत भी नहीं रहती।
Dr. Swami, what is more important to you, being an honest Indian citizen or a citizen's religious identity?
Well, I think this society of the Indian subcontinent is a spiritual society. I am not saying it's a religious society. The Sanatan Dharma has prescribed codes that how one should live. And this is not hard and there are no hard and fast rules. It's not for, if you want a simplistic understanding of what appeals, you should probably read the statement of Julia Roberts when she converted to Hinduism. No one asked her to convert, but she converted with the whole family and she made a statement. There are certain values which are part of human rights, which are necessary for human endeavor. And that includes the freedom to think alternative thoughts. That is permitted in the religion of Hinduism, and that's how we were brought up here. Islam and Christianity does not teach that accommodation. It can be done, and that has to be done. Otherwise, this subcontinent will remain destabilized, probably end up in war on this issue.
This question is to Mr. Aitaz Ahsan. Sir, do you believe that opportunistic and wrong decision or a policy of two nations theory ultimately led to Pakistan a failed state?
Well, quite frankly, if you're going into the origins, the two-nation theory, I think I already mentioned, very briefly, I had to, because I was reacting actually to Dr. Swami's speech, very eloquent speech, but if we were to go into history, I think Congress made mistakes after the 1937 elections and in 1946. And Mr. Jinnah accepted the cabinet mission plan. Had that been accepted, you could have had a united India with just a little less autonomy than the states have today. You heard Mr. Modi, and you know how autonomous states are. But if you are talking of the communal divide of two nations theory and in a communal sense, then I think India is a vast and great nation. I just mentioned the great religions, even the great religion that Dr. Swami did not mention and did not notice. And I think there are within a great nation many nations themselves, and it depends on the politicians, the political leadership, how they integrate them and keep them together, and how they allow them to disintegrate.